They tell us our ancestors built pyramids with copper chisels. They tell us they moved 100-ton stones with ropes and logs. They tell us history is a simple, straight line from primitive caves to the modern day. Then how do you explain this? A single block of granite in Egypt weighing over 1,200 tons, the equivalent of 3 Boeing 747s. It was abandoned not because they couldn't move it, but simply because it cracked. What kind of civilization possesses the technology to even attempt such a thing, only to discard it like a failed experiment? This isn't an isolated anomaly. It's a global pattern of impassibility. Why are there entire cities carved 18 stories deep into the volcanic rock of Turkey? Who built the underground vaults in Egypt to house 24 granite boxes, each weighing 100 tons and sealed with a lid so precise it's airtight? How did a culture in Bolivia machine volcanic stone with a hardness of 8 out of 10, creating cuts so perfect they look like they were made by lasers? From the 3,000 perfectly aligned stones at Carnac to the submerged megaliths off the coast of Japan, from the ancient Indonesian pyramid of Gunung Padang that could rewrite history, to the one story that appears in over 500 ancient cultures across every continent, the legend of a great flood that wiped the world clean. What if the history we read in textbooks is only half the story? What if these incredible sites are not the legacy of separate, primitive peoples, but the scattered fingerprints of one globally connected, forgotten chapter of humanity? Join us on a journey to the Earth's most enigmatic places as we piece together the evidence that our past is far more mysterious, advanced, and spectacular than we have ever been told. The unfinished obelisk, lying like a fallen giant in the ancient granite quarries of Aswan. Picture this, a colossal slab of pink granite over 137 feet long. That's taller than the 10-story building and weighing a staggering 1,200 tons. That's heavier than 2 Boeing 747 airplanes combined. Commissioned around 1500 BCE by Queen Hatshepsut, one of Egypt's most powerful female pharaohs, this obelisk was meant to be the crowning glory of her temple, a symbol of divine power reaching toward the sun god Ra. But here's the shocking twist: it was never finished. As workers pounded away with diorite stones, hard balls of rock used like primitive hammers, a massive crack appeared along its length, forcing them to abandon the project mid-quarry. Today, it lies exactly where it was left, still attached to the bedrock, as if frozen in time. But how did ancient Egyptians even attempt something this insane? Mainstream archaeology tells us they used simple tools, copper chisels, wooden wedges soaked in water to expand and split the stone, and sheer manpower from thousands of laborers. They'd carve trenches around the obelisk, then undercut it to free it from the quarry floor. To move it, ramps, sledges, and perhaps even wetting the sand to reduce friction. Ingenious, but feasible with Bronze Age tech. Yet, here's where it gets controversial. Some researchers argue this obelisk hints at a much older pre-flood civilization. Why? The precision of the quarrying marks suggests techniques beyond pounding stones. Imagine if this wasn't Hatshepsut's project at all, but a relic from a lost era, perhaps 12,000 years ago, before a massive flood, tied to the end of the Ice Age, swept away an advanced society. Theories like those from Graham Hancock point to global megalithic sites, from Göbekli Tepe in Turkey to Baalbek in Lebanon, all showing similar impossible engineering. Could the unfinished obelisk be evidence of sonic levitation or laser-like cutting tools from a forgotten Atlantis? The crack that doomed it, was it just bad luck or the remnant of a cataclysmic earthquake during the flood itself? Mind-blowing, right? If completed, this obelisk would have been the largest ever erected, dwarfing even the ones in Luxor. But abandoned, it serves as a tantalizing clue. What secrets died with that crack? Now, shift gears to the Serapeum of Saqqara, an underground labyrinth that feels straight out of a sci-fi thriller. Buried beneath the sands near Memphis, this vast network of tunnels was discovered in 1850 by French archaeologist Augustin Mariette, who stumbled upon it while hunting for ancient manuscripts. What he found? 26 enormous granite sarcophagi, each carved from a single block of Aswan granite, the same quarry as our obelisk, and weighing between 60 and 100 tons. That's like stacking 20 elephants in a box. These coffins are massive, 13 feet long, 7 feet wide, and 11 feet tall, with lids alone tipping the scales at 30 tons. Officially, they were tombs for sacred Apis bulls, embodiments of the god Ptah, mummified and buried with royal honors from around 1400 BCE onward. The bulls were chosen for their black and white markings, paraded as living gods, and when they died, embalmed in these opulent stone boxes. The tunnels stretch over 1,000 feet, dimly lit and eerie, with niches perfectly fitted for these behemoths. But hold on, this is where the plot thickens into pure mystery. How did ancient workers transport these sarcophagi through narrow, twisting passages, barely wider than the boxes themselves? The turns are 90 degrees, with no room for error. Ramps, levers, it's a logistical nightmare. And the precision. The interiors are polished to a mirror finish, flat to within 0.001 inches. That's finer than modern machining tolerances. Bronze tools couldn't achieve this. They dull too quickly on hard granite. Enter the alternative theories. What if these weren't bull tombs at all? Some experts propose they were high-tech devices from a pre-flood era. Imagine them as ancient batteries or arc-like energy containers, harnessing piezoelectric properties of quartz and granite for power. Or, as one theory suggests, harmonic resonance chambers for healing or levitation. Sound waves vibrating at specific frequencies to move stones or regenerate cells. Eyewitness accounts from explorers describe strange hums in the tunnels, and modern tests show acoustic anomalies. Could this be lost technology from a civilization that thrived before the Great Flood, perhaps the same one that built the pyramids? Carbon dating ties them to dynastic Egypt, but inscriptions are sparse, and only one sarcophagus contained bull remains. The rest were empty or filled with rubble. Shocking, isn't it? If not for bulls, then for what? Alien artifacts? Forbidden knowledge sealed away after a global catastrophe? Connecting these dots, the Great Flood looms large. Around 10,000 BCE, as ice sheets melted rapidly, sea levels rose 400 feet, submerging coastlines and possibly advanced societies. Flood myths appear in over 500 cultures worldwide, from Noah's Ark to the Epic of Gilgamesh. Sites like the unfinished Obelisk and Serapeum might be survivors or reboots of that lost world. Mainstream science dismisses this as pseudoscience, insisting on human labor and known tools, but the anomalies persist. Unexplained vitrification on stones, alignments with ancient solstices, and global parallels to other megaliths. What if Egypt's pharaohs inherited these techniques from flood survivors, repurposing them for their own glory? In the end, these structures aren't just stones. They're invitations to rethink our past. Did a pre-flood super-civilization master forces we can only dream of, only to be erased by nature's fury? Or were the ancient Egyptians simply geniuses ahead of their time? The evidence is out there, buried in the sand, waiting for us to uncover the truth. If this blew your mind, hit that like button, subscribe for more ancient enigmas, and drop in the comments, do you think these were built before the flood? Let's keep the conversation going. History might just be rewriting itself.
Imagine a forgotten chapter of human history buried beneath the sands of Egypt, where colossal stones whisper secrets of a world lost to a devastating flood. We're talking about the Great Flood again, that cataclysmic event echoed in myths from Noah to Gilgamesh, a global deluge around 12,000 years ago that may have erased advanced civilizations. Nestled in the sacred city of Abydos, one of Egypt's oldest religious centers, the Osirion lurks behind the grand temple of Seti I, like a hidden basement full of forbidden knowledge. Abydos was a pilgrimage site dedicated to Osiris, the god of resurrection and the afterlife, where pharaohs built shrines for millennia. Discovered in 1902 by archaeologists Flinders Petrie and Margaret Murray, the Osirion was unearthed during excavations that revealed a structure unlike anything else in Egypt. Picture this, a massive subterranean chamber, 100 feet long and 65 feet wide, built with enormous red granite blocks, some weighing up to 200 tons. That's heavier than a blue whale. These monoliths were quarried over 200 miles away in Aswan and transported. How? Mainstream experts say by river barges and ramps, but the precision is staggering. The blocks fit together without mortar, so tightly you couldn't slide a razor blade between them. At the center, a raised island platform surrounded by a deep moat filled with water, flanked by 10 gigantic pillars supporting what was once a roof of equally massive beams. 2 staircases descend into the water, leading nowhere apparent. And here's the eerie part. The whole thing is stark, undecorated, no hieroglyphics, no carvings on the main stones, just raw, imposing power. It's like the builder said, let the scale speak for itself. Officially, Egyptologists date the Osirion to around 1300 BCE, during the reign of Seti I, the same pharaoh who built the ornate temple in front. They see it as his cenotaph, a symbolic tomb where Seti could identify with Osiris, the dismembered god reborn. Inscriptions nearby, like cartouches bearing Seti's name, Menamatre is beneficial to Osiris, support this. The water channel? A ritual nod to the primeval waters of creation or the Nile's life-giving floods, perhaps used in ceremonies where priests reenacted Osiris's resurrection. Dorothy 80, the reincarnated priestess known as Seti, claimed the waters cured her ailments. Flower of life symbols, sacred geometry patterns, appear on pillars, possibly added later but evoking advanced knowledge. How did primitive builders achieve such precision? Theories whisper of lost technologies, sonic levitation, geopolymer casting, or even extraterrestrial aid. Graham Hancock and Robert Bauval link it to a pre-flood hall of records aligned with stars like Deneb in 10,500 BCE. If true, the Osirion isn't Seti's creation. It's a reboot, inherited from flood survivors who mastered forces we can't replicate today. Tying it back to the Great Flood, myths worldwide describe a deluge resetting civilization around 10,000 BCE. The Osirion's design mimics Osiris's myth, dismembered body parts scattered, then resurrected, perhaps symbolizing humanity's rebirth post-cataclysm. Empty chambers once held sacred relics. Only one sarcophagus room has bas-reliefs from the Book of the Dead, but the rest? Barren, like a vault for forbidden pre-flood wisdom. Mainstream skeptics dismiss this as pseudoscience, citing no direct evidence beyond Seti's marks, but the anomalies scream for reevaluation. Was it a residence chamber for energy, a portal to the afterlife, or proof of Atlantis' influence? In the shadows of Abydos, the Osirion stands as a bridge to our drowned past. Did a super civilization thrive before the flood, only for Egyptians to inherit their echoes? Or is it just masterful pharaonic engineering? The stones know, but they're not telling, yet. If this left you stunned, smash that like button, subscribe for more ancient mysteries, and comment below. Could the Osirion be pre-flood?
The megalithic temples of Malta, nestled in the heart of the Mediterranean, stand as enduring testaments to prehistoric ingenuity, offering a window into a society that thrived on these small islands millennia before the rise of classical civilizations. Constructed between roughly 3600 BC and 2500 BC, these structures predate many of the world's most famous ancient monuments, including the pyramids of Giza and Stonehenge, and were once hailed as the oldest freestanding buildings on Earth until the unearthing of Göbekli Tepe in Turkey shifted that timeline.
Built by Neolithic settlers who likely migrated from Sicily around 5900 BC, the temples reflect a process of local cultural evolution, marked by advancements in architecture, art, and possibly astronomy, all achieved without metal tools or the wheel. Their sudden disappearance after 2500 BC, coinciding with the end of the Tarxian phase, remains one of archaeology's puzzles, potentially linked to environmental changes, overpopulation, or external influences. The history of these temples unfolds across several prehistoric phases, beginning with the early Neolithic, 5200 to 4100 BC, encompassing subphases like Gar-Dalam, 5900 to 4500 BC, Grey Scorba, 4500 to 4400 BC, and Red Scorba, 4400 to 4100 BC, where evidence of farming, pottery, and early shrines appears. The temple period proper, 4100 to 2500 BC, includes the Jabuj, 4100 to 3800 BC, and Mjar, 3800 to 3600 BC, transitioning from rock-cut tombs to standing structures, followed by the Gigantia phase, 3600 to 3000 BC, Saflieni transitional phase, 3300 to 3000 BC, and the culminating Tarxian phase, 3000 to 2500 BC. Later Bronze Age phases, such as Tarxian Cemetery 2500 to 1500 BC, saw temples repurposed for burials, indicating cultural shifts. Archaeological excavations, starting in the 19th century with figures like Sir Temiz Amit, have revealed a wealth of details. Radiocarbon dating in the mid-20th century confirmed the temple's Neolithic origins, refuting earlier links to Aegean cultures. The sites were inscribed as UNESCO World Heritage in 1980, initially Gigantia, and expanded in 1992 to include 5 more, recognized for their monumental scale and technical sophistication under limited resources. Builders quarried local limestone, transporting massive blocks, some weighing tons, via stone spheres as rollers, a method inferred from artifacts at Tarxian and Hachakim. Walls were filled with rubble between inner and outer faces, and apses may have been roofed, though evidence is inconclusive. Decorations included bas-reliefs of spirals, plants, and animals, drilled holes for symbolic purposes, and altars for offerings. Astronomical alignments, such as at Monidra, where sunlight hits specific points during equinoxes, suggest sophisticated knowledge of celestial events. Excavations have yielded pottery with incised designs, tools like sickle blades, and bones from domesticated animals, cattle, sheep, and goats, and hunted species, indicating a mixed farming-hunting economy. Figurines, often depicting voluptuous females, point to fertility cults, while animal bones on altars suggest sacrificial rituals. Red ochre was used in burials and decorations, symbolizing blood or life. These elements portray a highly organized society with spiritual practices centered on renewal and abundance. The temple scale raises questions about labor organization on small islands. Mainstream archaeology views them as products of isolated evolution, but alternative theories propose connections to advanced ancient civilizations. Some link Malta to Plato's Atlantis, citing submerged structures and temple alignments as echoes of a lost empire destroyed by cataclysm around 9600 BC. Pre-flood hypotheses popularized in documentaries and books suggest survivors of a global deluge tied to Ice Age melt rebuilt here, with elongated skulls from the hypogeum hinting at distinct populations. Critics, including local archaeologists, counter that radiocarbon dates firmly place them in the Neolithic, dismissing claims of 12,000-year-old origins as unsubstantiated. Folklore of giants building the temples, as at Gigantia, adds mythic layers.
Imagine the whispers of a drowned world rising from the mists of time, where colossal stones stand sentinel against the fury of an ancient cataclysm. We're diving back into the shadows of prehistory, exploring structures that may predate the Great Flood, that biblical deluge echoed in myths from Noah to the Epic of Gilgamesh, a global wipeout around 12,000 years ago that buried advanced societies under waves of chaos. But what if echoes of those lost worlds endure in the windswept fields of France? Today, we uncover the megalithic Carnac stones in Brittany, a sprawling enigma of over 3,000 granite giants that defy explanation. These aren't mere rocks, they're a labyrinth of mystery, potentially built by flood survivors wielding forgotten knowledge. Prepare for jaw-dropping facts and theories that will shatter your view of human history. Nestled along the rugged coast of Brittany, near the village of Carnac, this UNESCO World Heritage Site sprawls across 4 kilometers like a frozen army of stone warriors. Picture rows upon rows of menhirs, standing stones, meticulously aligned in parallel lines, some converging like ancient arrows pointing to secrets long buried. The main groups? Limenek, with 1,099 stones in 11 rows stretching 1,165 meters. Kermario, boasting 1,029 in 10 rows over 1,300 meters. And Kurliskan, with 555 in 13 rows spanning 800 meters. Stones range from knee-high at 0.5 meters to towering over 6 meters, averaging 5 to 10 tons each. That's like hoisting a small elephant upright. And don't forget the dolmens, those eerie stone tombs with massive capstones, or tumuli like the St. Michel Mound, a 35,000 cubic meter behemoth hiding burial chambers. The Manio Giant, a solitary 6.5 meter monolith etched with serpentine carvings that slither like ancient warnings. Discovered piecemeal since the 18th century, with serious digs kicking off in the 1870s by Scottish archaeologist James Milne, the site now draws pilgrims seeking answers in its silent ranks. Mainstream archaeology dates these marvels to the Neolithic era, around 4,500 to 3,300 BCE, predating Stonehenge by a millennium and the pyramids by 2. Recent 2025 studies push some sections back to 4,600 to 4,300 BCE, crowning them Europe's oldest megalithic monuments. Built by prehistoric locals, farmers or hunter-gatherers, these folks quarried local granite without metal tools, likely dragging slabs on log rollers, levering them into pits with ramps, and stabilizing with earth. Why? Theories abound. Ceremonial hubs for fertility rites, with animal bones and pottery hinting at rituals, astronomical observatories, alignments tracking solstices and lunar cycles. Alexander Thom's work suggests they predicted eclipses with precision unmatched for millennia. Or social markers, dolmens as elite tombs stuffed with jade axes from the Italian Alps, flaunting trade networks and hierarchies. Tumuli like Tumiak held treasures, polished axes, beads from Iberia, proof of a connected, hierarchical society. Yet the sites managed today with fences and sheep grazers to combat erosion after vandals toppled 39 stones in 2023 for a DIY store. Shocking? Absolutely. These stones have survived millennia, only to face modern bulldozers. But here's where it gets electrifying. The alignments descend in height, meandering like serpents toward the sea. Why this pattern? And anomalies pile up. The acidic soil dissolved bones, leaving empty tombs. Stones repurposed for roads, scrambling original layouts. Most mind-bending? Alignments plunge underwater. Off Carnac's coast, divers found submerged menhirs and axes from Italian mines dating to 4,500 BCE. Sea levels rose 400 feet post-Ice Age, submerging parts built when the shore was miles away. A 20-foot underwater menhir, erected at least 7,500 years ago. This screams pre-flood origins, tying into global deluges that reset civilization. Enter the controversy. Alternative theorists like Graham Hancock argue these aren't primitive feats, but remnants of a lost super-civilization. Hancock's Ancient Apocalypse posits an Ice Age society, advanced in astronomy and geophysics, obliterated by cometary impacts and floods around 10,000 BCE. Carnac, a survivor, perhaps built by Atlantean descendants. Plato's Sunken Empire, echoed in Breton legends of drowned cities like Is. Ulf Erlingsson links Plato's Atlantis to this megalithic zone, spanning Europe to North Africa. Pierre Mérot suggests alignments trace earthquake faults, an earthquake detector from seismic-savvy Atlanteans. Sonic levitation, psychic stone moving, serpentine carvings evoke energy lines, telluric currents harnessed for unknown powers. And those solar illuminations in dolmens? Echoes of Egyptian tech, but older. Did Atlanteans inspire pyramids? Global parallels, Stonehenge, Göbekli Tepe, even Easter Island statues, all fingerprints of a shared pre-flood knowledge base. Tying it to the Great Flood, myths worldwide describe a watery apocalypse, melting ice sheets, flooding coasts. Carnac's submerged rose, direct evidence, built on dry land, then drowned as seas rose. Survivors, fleeing Atlantis's quakes and tsunamis, resettled in Brittany, erecting these as memorials, observatories, or barriers against the sea's wrath. Legends of giants or Merlin petrifying armies, veiled memories of godlike builders. Mainstream dismisses as pseudoscience, citing no direct proof beyond Neolithic tools. But anomalies, like precession accounting alignments, hint at math beyond primitive folk. In Carnac's windswept fields, stones whisper of a forgotten epoch. Were they beacons for a pre-flood utopia, guardians of lost wisdom, or Neolithic genius alone? The flood's shadow looms. Submerged secrets await.
The Dolmen de Soto in Spain and the Newgrange tomb in Ireland. These aren't just tombs. They're portals to a mysterious past, potentially crafted by flood survivors wielding knowledge beyond our comprehension. Get ready for astonishing facts, eerie alignments, and theories that will leave you spellbound. Let's begin in the sun-baked fields of Andalusia, Spain, with the Dolmen de Soto, a subterranean enigma buried under a massive mound in Trigueros, Huelva. Discovered in 1922 by landowner Armando de Soto Morillas while prepping to build a house, this beast was excavated in the 1920s by German archaeologist Hugo Obermeier, revealing a structure that screams ancient ingenuity. Picture a circular mound 75 meters across, like a football field, housing a V-shaped passage 20.9 meters long, starting narrow and 0.8 meters wide and 1.55 meters high in the west, ballooning to 3.1 meters wide and 3.9 meters high in the east, leading to a cozy chamber. Built with 64 towering orthostats of quartzite, sandstone, and limestone, plus 20 capstones roofing it all, this is one of Spain's largest dolmens. And the weight? Some stones tip the scales at over 20 tons. How did Neolithic folks haul them without wheels or metal? Mainstream archaeology dates it to 3,000–2,500 BCE, a Neolithic ritual burial site for the elite or community. Excavations uncovered 8 bodies in fetal positions, huddled with daggers, cups, and marine fossils, sparse grave goods suggesting it wasn't heavily used. But here's the shocker. 43 stones bear engravings of human figures, cups, knives, and geometric swirls, some reused from older menhirs, hinting at a deeper history. During equinoxes, sunlight floods the passage, illuminating the chamber in a rebirth ritual, much like a cosmic clock. Theories swirl. Was it a solar calendar, a healing sanctuary, or a gateway to the afterlife? Alternative voices whisper of pre-flood origins, perhaps 6,000 years old or more, linking it to a lost civilization that mastered astronomy before the deluge buried their world. Imagine flood refugees repurposing sacred menhirs and coding survival knowledge in stone. The engraving's age and the site's east-west orientation, clues to antediluvian tech defying simple tools. Now, cross the seas to Ireland's lush Boyne Valley, where Newgrange stands as a 5,000-year-old masterpiece, older than Stonehenge or the pyramids. Built around 3200 BCE, this passage tomb was unearthed in 1699 when landowner Charles Campbell's workers stumbled into its entrance, but true excavation came in 1962 to 1975 under Professor Michael J. O'Kelly, who restored its gleaming facade. Envision a mound 85 meters wide, 12 meters high, weighing 200,000 tons, encircled by 97 curbstones and a later Bronze Age stone circle of 12 survivors. A 19-meter passage snakes to a cruciform chamber with a corbelled roof, no mortar needed, just precision stacking. The art? Mind-blowing. Spirals, lozenges, chevrons, and a triskel on the entrance stone, some carvings hidden below ground, etched with stone tools for symbolic power. But the ultimate jaw-dropper. On winter solstice, sunlight pierces a roof box, lighting the chamber for 17 minutes. A beam of hope on the darkest day, first witnessed by O'Kelly in 1967. Myths abound. It's Shidden Broga, home to gods like the Dagda and Angus, a portal to the otherworld where time bends. Purpose?
a house of the dead for rituals, an astronomical observatory tracking solstices, or a calendar for farming folk. Controversies rage. O'Kelly's quartz facade reconstruction is called Disney-like by critics, though evidence supports it. Alternative theories? Graham Hancock and others see Newgrange as a relic of Ice Age survivors, an advanced pre-flood society that aligns stones with stars, perhaps from Atlantis. DNA hints at elite inbreeding, but recent studies debunk royal incest myths. Both sites share passage designs and solar magic, Dolmen's equinox glow, Newgrange's solstice beam, echoing global megaliths like Malta's temples or Carnac's rose. Could they stem from a unified pre-Diluvian culture, scattered by floods? Rising seas submerged coasts, erasing evidence, but these endure as beacons. Tying to the Great Flood, as ice melted, waters rose 400 feet, drowning lands. Myths of drowned realms like Atlantis or Irish legends of flooded plains suggest survivors rebuilt, infusing stones with cosmic wisdom. Mainstream says Neolithic genius with ramps and levers. Alternatives scream lost tech, sonic lifting, geopolymers. Empty chambers? Not for bodies, but energy or records. These megaliths challenge our timeline. Were they flood-proof vaults of ancient lore or human triumphs? The stones hold secrets, perhaps waiting for solstice light to reveal all.
Now we venture to the high Andean plateau of Peru, to the megalithic Sillustani Chullpas, towering tombs that some believe predate the Tinca and even the flood itself. Perched near the mystical lake Titicaca, these cylindrical giants challenge our understanding of history, hinting at lost technologies and cosmic connections. Prepare for mind-bending revelations that could rewrite humanity's past. Nestled on a rugged peninsula overlooking Lake Umayo, just 34 kilometers northwest of Puno in southern Peru, Sillustani emerges like a sentinel from the windswept Altiplano at 3,840 meters above sea level. This pre-Incan cemetery, surrounded by the shimmering waters that locals call a sea in the sky, was first documented by Spanish chroniclers in the 16th century, but systematic exploration began in the 19th century with adventurers like Ephraim George Squire, who sketched the towers in 1877. Modern excavations, led by figures like Peruvian archaeologist Alfredo Valencia Zegarra in the 1970s, revealed a site teeming with history. Picture over 90 Chullpas, tower-like structures up to 12 meters tall, crafted from massive andesite and basalt blocks weighing tons each. These cylinders taper slightly outward from base to top, with curved domes and intricate friezes, some featuring carved lizards symbolizing regeneration and rebirth. The entrances? Tiny openings, just 70 centimeters square, always facing east toward the rising sun, a nod to Andean beliefs in solar resurrection. Inside, the dry, high-altitude air preserved mummies in fetal positions, bundled with artifacts like pottery, jewelry, and tools, suggesting these were elite burials for nobility and their kin. Mainstream archaeology attributes the Chullpas to the Kola, or Kolya people, an Aymara-speaking group who dominated the region from around 1200 to 1450 AD, before their conquest by the Inca Empire under Pachacuti. The site reflects a blend of influences, earlier roots in the Tiwanaku culture, 500 to 950 AD, which spread from nearby Bolivia, and later Inca modifications using precise polygonal masonry. Radiocarbon dating from human remains and artifacts places the primary construction in the late Intermediate period, 1000 to 1450 AD, with the Chullpas serving as houses of the soul or Uta Amaya, where extended families were interred to honor ancestors and ensure their journey to the afterlife. The Kola, known for their warrior ethos and resistance to Inca expansion, built these as status symbols. The taller and finer the tower, the higher the social rank. Construction techniques? Labor-intensive. Stones quarried from distant sites like Capachaca, 20 kilometers away, hauled on llama trains or reed boats across the lake, then fitted without mortar using ramps and levers, as evidenced by an unfinished Chullpa with a visible ramp. Spanish chronicler Bernabe Cobo marveled at similar methods during Cuzco's cathedral build in the 1600s. Grave robbers dynamited many towers in the 19th and 20th centuries, scattering bones and treasures, but restorations by Peru's National Institute of Culture have preserved the site's eerie beauty. But here's where the narrative cracks open into pure enigma.
The precision of the stonework rivals that of Sacsayhuamán or Machu Picchu, with blocks interlocking so tightly that not even a knife blade slips between them. Some Chullpas feature a dual-layer design, outer basalt shells encasing inner andesite cores sealed with white clay. Why this complexity for mere tombs? And the materials, basalt and andesite, volcanic rocks from quarries over 20 kilometers away, transported across treacherous terrain without wheels. Shocking fact, one Chullpa's western side shows explosive damage as if from an internal force, not just looters. Blocks hurled 50 meters away. Excavations revealed no widespread mummification intent. The preservation was natural, raising questions about their true purpose. Unfinished towers expose scoop marks and protrusions, eerily similar to those at Egypt's unfinished obelisk or Peru's Ollantaytambo, hinting at advanced quarrying lost to time. Enter the alternative theories that will blow your mind. What if these weren't originally tombs, but part of an ancient energy network? Researchers like Christopher Dunn and geologist Dr. Robert Schoch proposed the finer Chullpas harnessed acoustic resonance. Tests inside one amplified notes A and A sharp, echoing the Great Pyramid's King's Chamber. Energy dowsers detected energy bands, suggesting piezoelectric properties from the quartz-rich stones, perhaps generating power or healing vibrations. The east-facing doors? Portals for solar energy alignment, not just symbolism. Dating pushes boundaries. Some argue the superior masonry predates the Kola, linking to enigmatic Perhuas or Viracochans, mythical white-skinned beings who, per Inca lore, emerged from Lake Titicaca post-flood to civilize humanity. Viracocha, the creator god, unleashed the Unu Pachacuti, a great flood, to punish a sinful world, sparing only 2 survivors at Titicaca to repopulate. Legends describe a fertile valley flooded to form the lake, mirroring global deluge myths. Could Sillustani's Chullpas be pre-flood relics, repurposed as tombs by later cultures? Proximity to Titicaca, cradle of Inca creation, where Viracocha forged the sun and stars, fuels speculation of Atlantean or extraterrestrial influence, Graham Hancock-style lost civilizations surviving cataclysm. The lizard carvings? Symbols of transformation, perhaps encoding knowledge from a drowned epoch. Global parallels abound, like Malta's temples or Carnac's alignments. These towers might map ley lines or cosmic energies, built by flood refugees wielding sonic levitation or geopalmer tech. Tying it all to the Great Flood, as ice sheets melted, seas rose 400 feet, inundating coasts and possibly advanced Andean societies. Inca myths of Viracocha's deluge suggest Sillustani as a post-flood sanctuary, its towers beacons for rebirth. Mainstream skeptics insist on cultural evolution with known tools, but anomalies, like non-local stones and resonant chambers, scream for re-evaluation. Were the Chullpas energy devices from a pre-flood utopia, later co-opted for burials, or masterful Kola engineering alone? In the shadow of Lake Titicaca, Sillustani's Chullpas whisper of drowned secrets. Did a super-civilization thrive before the flood, only for survivors to etch their legacy in stone? The evidence tantalizes. History may be deeper than we know.
Turkey's enigmatic megalithic Derinkuyu and Kaymakli underground cities in Cappadocia, sprawling subterranean metropolises that some believe predate recorded history, potentially built as pre-flood bunkers by a lost civilization. These aren't mere caves, they're engineering marvels, self-sustaining worlds that could shelter thousands, challenging everything we know about ancient humanity. Brace for shocking discoveries that might prove our ancestors were far more advanced than we thought. Picture this. In 1963, a Turkish homeowner in Nevşehir knocks down a basement wall during renovations, only to stumble into a mysterious tunnel. What unfolds is Derinkuyu, the deepest and largest excavated underground city on Earth, plunging 85 meters, nearly 280 feet, into soft volcanic tough rock. This colossal complex sprawls across 445 square kilometers, with up to 18 levels connected by a maze of narrow, stoop-inducing passages designed for defense. Imagine descending into a hidden realm, stables on the upper floors for livestock, communal kitchens blackened by ancient fires, wineries with massive presses for oil and grape juice, storage rooms stocked for sieges, tombs, schools, and even a cruciform church on the lowest level. Ventilation? Over 50 shafts, some reports say hundreds, ingeniously circulate fresh air to the deepest chambers, preventing suffocation for up to 20,000 residents plus animals. Wells tap underground rivers 55 meters deep, providing water immune to surface poisoning. And the defenses? Half-ton rolling stone doors, maneuverable by one person from inside, seal off sections like impenetrable vaults, with peepholes for spearing invaders. Shocking fact, these boulders weigh 1,000 pounds each, balanced so precisely that modern engineers marvel at the physics. The city's layout includes escape routes, hidden entrances, over 600 scattered across homes, and the ability to isolate levels, cutting off water to trapped enemies above. Mainstream archaeology dates Derinkuyu to the Hittites around 1600 to 1200 BCE, who may have begun carving it as a refuge from invaders. The Phrygians expanded it in the 8th to 7th centuries BCE, but it truly flourished under Byzantine Christians from the 1st century AD, who fortified it against Arab raids, Persian armies, and later Mongol hordes led by Timur in the 14th century. Greek-speaking locals used it as a sanctuary during Ottoman persecutions, hiding for months with self-sustaining systems. It was a troglodyte paradise. Families lived in apartments, children attended underground schools, and communities held rituals in chapels adorned with crosses. But by 1923, after the Greco-Turkish War, Cappadocian Greeks were expelled to Greece, abandoning the city for good. Forgotten until its rediscovery, it was opened to visitors in 1969 and declared a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 1985 as part of Goreme National Park. Yet only half is excavated. Sealed sections hint at untold depths, with local legends of tunnels leading to hidden relics or even the underworld. Now venture 9 kilometers away to Kaymakli, the widest underground city, often called Derinkuyu's twin. Discovered similarly through surface homes, it dives across 8 levels, though only 4 are open, carved into the same malleable tuff. While shallower than Derinkuyu, it's broader, with spacious tunnels that feel less claustrophobic. Features mirror its neighbor: stables repurposed from early food storage caves, communal kitchens, a church, graveyards, and vast storage for grains and wine, suggesting economic prosperity. Tiny entrances, just wide enough for one person, lead to labyrinths where defenders could ambush foes. Capacity? Likely thousands, connected to Derinkuyu by a 5 to 9 kilometer tunnel, a staggering feat that forms part of a network of over 200 underground sites in Cappadocia. Mainstream views dated to the Phrygians in the 8th to 7th centuries BCE, expanded by early Christians during the Arab-Byzantine Wars 780 to 1180 AD for religious refuge. Open to the public in 1964, it's also UNESCO protected, offering glimpses into a fortified, self-reliant world where inhabitants could endure sieges indefinitely. But here's the mind-blowing twist. These cities' precision defies simple tools. How did primitive builders excavate millions of tons of rock without collapse, engineer flawless ventilation, or transport massive stones underground? Alternative theories explode the timeline. Some link them to the Younger Dryas event, around 14,500 years ago, a mini ice age with cometary impacts and massive floods, proposing Derinkuyu and Kaymakli as pre-flood bunkers by a lost super-civilization. Graham Hancock and others speculate survivors of Atlantis or an advanced Ice Age society fled cataclysms here, using forgotten tech like resonant frequencies to soften rock for carving, echoing modern theories of acoustic levitation. Connections to Göbekli Tepe, 600 kilometers east and dated to 12,000 years ago, suggest a shared knowledge base. Extraterrestrial whispers abound. Were these shelters from alien invasions or cosmic disasters? Geological studies confirm the tuff's ease of excavation, but the scale implies organized labor from a society far older than Hittites. Unexplained damage, like explosive blasts on walls, fuels ideas of ancient energy weapons or seismic events tied to the flood. And that network? Perhaps a global underground grid for preserving humanity during the deluge. Tying it to the Great Flood, as seas rose 400 feet, submerging coasts, myths worldwide describe watery apocalypses. In Cappadocia, legends of drowned valleys mirror this, Viracocha-like creators emerging post-flood. Derinkuyu and Kaymakli might be flood-proof arcs repurposed by later cultures. Mainstream insists on gradual evolution from Hittite hideouts, but anomalies like pre-Byzantine carvings and unexcavated depths demand reevaluation. Were they energy resonators harnessing Earth's frequencies for survival, or masterful defenses against nature's fury? In Cappadocia's ethereal landscapes, these underground enigmas beckon us to question our origins. Did pre-flood geniuses carve them as lifelines, only for echoes to survive? The stones hold the truth, buried deep.
What if I told you that hidden in the mountains of Japan are massive stone structures so ancient that their origins predate recorded history? What if these mysterious monuments were created by a sophisticated civilization that existed thousands of years before the Great Flood myths found in cultures across our planet? Let's start our journey in the city of Takasago, Hyogo Prefecture, where the Ishi-no-Hoden megalith sits as one of Japan's most bewildering monuments. Imagine a gigantic stone structure in the shape of an old tube television, nearly 6 meters high and weighing approximately 500 tons, that appears to float miraculously above a pond of water. This isn't special effects magic, this is real, and it's been sitting there for millennia. The name Ishi-no-Hoden literally translates to stone treasure hall, but this doesn't begin to capture the true mystery of this colossal structure. Carved from hyaloclastite, a type of hydrated stone rich in black volcanic glass formed during underwater volcanic eruptions 70 million years ago, this megalith represents an engineering marvel that seems impossible for its supposed time of creation. What's truly astonishing is that this massive stone appears to float above the water due to its precision-cut base designed to create this optical illusion, or perhaps something more technological. The water beneath it never dries up, even during severe droughts, suggesting the ancient builders might have tapped into underground water systems or created advanced hydrological features. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Local legends claim that this stone is connected to divine beings who descended from the heavens in a giant rock ship to help humanity during a great epidemic. According to these tales, the gods Okuni Nushi and Sukuna Bikona appeared to Emperor Sujin in a dream during a devastating plague and promised protection if they were worshipped. When the emperor complied, the epidemic miraculously stopped. This story takes on eerie relevance today as the site has attracted increased visitors during recent global health crises, with pilgrims seeking protection from illness at this ancient monument. Now, let's travel to the village of Asuka in the Nara Prefecture, where another massive megalith defies explanation. Meet the Masuda-no-Iwafune, or the rock ship of Masuda. This behemoth is carved from a single piece of granite weighing an estimated 800 tons. That's nearly 300 tons heavier than Ishi-no-Hoden. Its dimensions are staggering, approximately 11 meters in length, 8 meters in width, and 4.7 meters in height. The top has been completely flattened with 2 perfect 1-meter square holes carved into it and a ridgeline that runs parallel to both holes. The base features lattice-shaped indentations that archaeologists believe might be related to the method used to flatten the sides of the rock, though no one knows for sure. The name Iwafune literally translates to stone ship, and local legends indeed speak of a heavenly rock vessel that carried deities from the skies to Japan. Some researchers have noted that the ridgeline across the top of the monument aligns with the sunset on a specific day significant in the lunar calendar, possibly marking the beginning of the agricultural season. This has led to theories that it might have been an astronomical observation point, though most mainstream scholars dismiss this idea. Here's where the plot thickens. Both these mysterious structures share similarities with each other and with megalithic sites across the world, suggesting a possible global prehistoric civilization with advanced technological knowledge. The precise angles, smooth surfaces, and massive scale of these stones resemble the craftsmanship found in ancient Egyptian and South American sites, cultures that supposedly had no contact with each other. Even more intriguingly, some researchers have pointed out stylistic similarities between these Japanese megaliths and sites in Peru, such as the angular blocks at Puma Punku and the Rumi Hawassi stone of Apuramek. This raises the compelling possibility of transoceanic contact thousands of years before conventional history tells us such travel was possible. But what really pushes the boundaries of conventional understanding is the potential age of these structures. While mainstream archaeology suggests they might date back to the Kofun period, 250 to 552 AD, several compelling pieces of evidence suggest they could be far older. Some researchers propose that Ishi-no-Hoden could be as old as 16,000 years, dating it to a time before the catastrophic flooding that occurred at the end of the last ice age. This would place its construction firmly in the pre-flood era, when ancient myths from cultures worldwide speak of advanced civilizations that were lost to rising waters. The Jomon period of Japanese history, which spanned from about 14,000 BC to 300 BC, shows evidence of sophisticated pottery and cultural development. But could they have created these massive stone structures? The precision cutting and moving of 500 to 800-ton stones would be a challenge even with modern technology, making these achievements seemingly impossible for prehistoric hunter-gatherers. This has led to various theories about lost technologies or even assistance from advanced extraterrestrial visitors, as suggested by ancient astronaut theorists. Consider this. Both megaliths show minimal tool marks despite their precise construction. In the case of Ishi-no-Hoden, studies conducted in 2005 to 2006 by the University of Otemai and local authorities using three-dimensional laser measurements found no traces of picks or other tools on its surface. The entire rock appears polished of any sign of processing, as if the builders used techniques that somehow manipulated the stone at a molecular level or employed technologies we simply don't understand today. The mysteries deepen when we examine the cultural context. Both megaliths were later incorporated into religious sites. Ishi-no-Hoden became part of a Shinto shrine, while Buddhist temples surrounded Masuda-no-Iwafune, but their original purpose remains unknown. The later cultures that adopted these sites seem to have no knowledge of who built them or why, suggesting they were already ancient mysteries thousands of years ago. So what were these massive structures actually used for? Theories abound among researchers and alternative historians. Some propose that they were energy generators that interacted with underground water systems and geological forces. Others suggest they were representations of divine vehicles or landing sites for celestial beings. The more conventional explanations, that they were failed tomb constructions or astronomical markers, don't fully account for their sophisticated design or the incredible effort required to create them. The Great Flood myths found in numerous cultures, including the Japanese legend of the heavenly rock ship, may hold the key to understanding why we know so little about these structures' origins. If a catastrophic global event did occur around 12,000 years ago, as many geologists now believe, it would have wiped out advanced prehistoric civilizations, leaving only their most durable creations behind as mysterious monuments that later cultures could only incorporate into their own belief systems as divine artifacts. As we conclude our exploration of Japan's mysterious megaliths, we're left with more questions than answers. How were these massive stones quarried, shaped, and moved without modern technology? Why do they share similarities with sites on other continents? What advanced knowledge did their builders possess about astronomy, geology, and energy systems? And most intriguingly, could these be the surviving remnants of a sophisticated pre-flood civilization whose achievements were largely lost to history? The Ishi-no-Hoden and Masuda-no-Iwafune stand as silent witnesses to a forgotten chapter in human history, challenging our conventional timelines and urging us to reconsider what we think we know about our ancient past.
What if I told you that deep in the Saudi Arabian desert lies a rock formation so perfectly split that it looks like it was cut by a laser beam? What if this geological marvel has stood balanced on delicate pedestals for thousands of years, challenging everything we think we know about ancient technology and natural forces? Imagine standing in the vast, arid landscape of northwestern Saudi Arabia, about 50 kilometers south of the ancient Taima oasis. Before you rises a sandstone spectacle that defies logic. Two massive stone blocks, each balanced precariously on small natural pedestals, separated by a crack so precise it could pass for a laser-cut incision. This is Naslaa, a geological wonder that has captivated archaeologists, geologists, and conspiracy theorists alike. The formation stands approximately 6 meters, 20 feet tall, and 9 meters, 29 feet wide, with each half of the split rock maintaining an almost symmetrical balance that seems to defy gravity. The sheer weight of these sandstone blocks, estimated at hundreds of tons, makes their delicate positioning on narrow pedestals even more astonishing. But it's the perfectly straight fissure between them that truly sparks the imagination, a narrow gap that runs from top to bottom with millimeter precision, creating the unmistakable appearance of intentional cutting. Adding to the mystery, the surface of the rock features ancient petroglyphs, rock carvings depicting animals like horses, ibex, and human figures. These inscriptions, thousands of years old, testify that humans have been fascinated by this formation since antiquity, though their meaning remains as enigmatic as the rock itself. Mainstream geology offers several explanations for Naslaa's extraordinary appearance. One prominent theory suggests that the split resulted from tectonic activity. The region occasionally experiences shifts in Earth's crust, and a sudden movement might have fractured the sandstone along a straight line. Since sandstone is layered and relatively fragile, such a fracture could have occurred cleanly. However, this alone doesn't explain the smoothness of the fissure. Geologists propose that over thousands of years, wind carrying abrasive sand particles polished the fractured surfaces until they achieved their current glass-like smoothness. Another hypothesis points to natural joint formation. Joints are fractures in rock that occur without significant displacement, often resulting from tectonic compression or cooling processes. These joints frequently break rocks along straight lines. At Naslaa, there's even a parallel crack visible to the right of the main fissure, supporting this idea. Again, erosion would have smoothed these surfaces over time. A third theory involves freeze-thaw weathering. Though the Saudi Arabian desert is now arid, it experienced cooler, wetter periods in the distant past. Water could have seeped into small cracks in the rock, freezing and expanding over countless cycles. This expansion would have gradually widened the cracks until the rock split. The melting water then deepened the fissure, eventually creating the precise split we see today. The delicate pedestals supporting each half also have a natural explanation. These are likely examples of mushroom rocks, common in desert landscapes. They form when wind blows faster near the ground, carrying sand that erodes the base of the rock more quickly than the top. This natural sand blasting effect could have carved the slender supports that make the rocks appear to float. Despite these geological explanations, many observers find it hard to accept that natural processes alone could create such perfection. This has led to more speculative, controversial theories. Some suggest that ancient civilizations possessed advanced technology far beyond what conventional history acknowledges. The precision of the cut parallels other ancient mysteries like the pyramids of Egypt or the megaliths of Baalbek, Lebanon, where massive stones were cut and moved with inexplicable accuracy. If these cultures could achieve such feats, why couldn't they have tools capable of slicing through stone with laser-like precision? More fantastically, extraterrestrial involvement has been proposed. Ancient astronaut theorists point to the cut's perfection and the rock's balanced positioning as evidence of alien technology. Could this have been a test site for advanced tools? Or perhaps a marker left by visitors from another world? As one internet commenter quipped, "I'm not saying it was aliens, but it was aliens." Others propose that the split might have ritualistic or symbolic significance. Given the ancient petroglyphs on its surface, Naslaa might have been a sacred site. The split could represent a mythological division or a portal between worlds. However, without more archaeological evidence, these ideas remain in the realm of speculation. To understand Naslaa fully, we must consider its location. The Taima oasis has been inhabited since the Bronze Age and was a crucial stop on ancient trade routes. Archaeological excavations have uncovered artifacts dating back to the 4000 BCE, and the region is rich with historical significance. In 2010, a rock inscription bearing the name of Egyptian pharaoh Ramesses III was discovered near Tima, suggesting cross-cultural connections dating back millennia. The oasis was even mentioned in Assyrian inscriptions from the 8th century BCE, where it appeared as Tiamat. Later, in the 6th century BCE, Babylonian king Nabonidus retired to Tima for religious reasons, further highlighting its importance. The petroglyphs on Naslaa itself likely date back thousands of years, depicting animals like horses and ibexes that were significant to ancient peoples. These carvings add a layer of human history to the geological mystery, showing that Naslaa has been a point of fascination for millennia. So, we're left with more questions than answers. Was this incredible split the result of millennia of natural weathering, or does it point to something more? A lost chapter in human history where technology rivaled our own? Perhaps the truth lies somewhere in between. What makes Naslaa special is its ability to inspire wonder and curiosity. It stands as a testament to the mysteries still hidden in our world's remote corners, waiting for us to uncover their secrets.
What if I told you that scattered across a remote, mountainous plateau in Southeast Asia are thousands of massive stone jars, some weighing several tons, whose origin and purpose have been completely lost to history? What if this site is so enigmatic and so ancient that it potentially predates even the most famous megalithic wonders of our world? And what if the secret to unlocking this mystery has been guarded for millennia by one of the most dangerous landscapes on Earth? Imagine a vast, hauntingly beautiful landscape of rolling green hills and lush grasslands. Dotting this terrain, as far as the eye can see, are thousands of gigantic stone jars. They are hewn from solid rock, sandstone, granite, and limestone, and they vary dramatically in size. Some are mere 3-foot-tall vessels, while others are absolute behemoths, standing over 3 meters tall and weighing an estimated 10 to 12 tons each. That's heavier than a fully grown African elephant, and there are thousands of them. This isn't a single site, it's a sprawling network of over 90 documented jar sites across the Jiangquang Plateau in Laos. The largest and most famous site, Site 1 alone, contains 334 of these colossal jars. Many are cylindrical, but others are angular, square, or even disc-shaped. Some stand upright, while others are tilted, sunken into the earth, or lie broken on their sides, as if a race of giants simply walked away from their work one day and never returned. But here's the first layer of the mystery, the lids. A number of the jars have accompanying stone discs, carefully carved to fit their openings. These aren't rough covers, some are intricately decorated with carvings of human figures, faces, or animals. This detail alone suggests a profound cultural significance, a purpose far beyond simple storage. Who were these people, and what were they trying to contain or protect with such monumental lids? So, what was the purpose of these incredible stone jars? Mainstream archaeology has its leading theory, but the truth is, no one knows for sure, and that's what makes this place so fascinating. The most widely accepted theory, championed by French archaeologist Madeleine Colani, who conducted the first major study in the 1930s, is that the jars were funerary urns. Colani excavated around the jars and found human remains, ash, burial goods like beads and tools, and ceramic pots. This evidence suggests the jars were used for either exposing the dead to the elements until only the bones remained, a practice known as excarnation, or for storing the cremated remains of the deceased. The smaller jars found nearby might have held offerings for the afterlife. This theory paints the Plain of Jars as one of the most extensive and ancient necropolises on the planet.
But other theories persist, fueled by the lack of a complete narrative. Local Lao legends tell a different story. One popular myth speaks of a race of giants who inhabited the area. Their king, Kun Chung, was a great warrior who, after a victorious battle, needed vast quantities of rice wine to celebrate. He ordered the creation of these massive jars to brew and store enough Lao Hai, rice wine, for his entire army. This charming folktale offers a more celebratory origin, though it doesn't explain the human remains found nearby. Other researchers have proposed the jars were used for collecting rainwater for caravan travelers along ancient trade routes, or for fermenting food and drink on an industrial scale.
However, the funerary evidence remains the most compelling, yet still incomplete explanation. The questions of purpose quickly lead to even more profound mysteries. Who built them, and how did they do it? The jars are made from various types of rock, some of which, like sandstone and granite, are incredibly hard. The quarry sites have been identified, but this only deepens the mystery. How did a supposedly Iron Age society with rudimentary tools of bone, wood, and iron quarry, shape, and transport these multi-ton stone vessels over distances of several kilometers? We're talking about moving the weight of multiple elephants across mountainous terrain without the wheel, without pulleys, and without draft animals. The logistical feat is nothing short of astonishing. Even more puzzling is the complete lack of historical context. The culture that created the Plain of Jars has left no other significant monuments, no written records, and no clear descendants. They appear in history, perform this one staggering act of megalithic construction, and then vanish without a trace. Carbon dating of the archaeological materials found at the sites suggests they were in use from as early as 500 BCE to as late as 500 to 800 CE. That's a time span of over 1,000 years, yet we know virtually nothing about the people who spent centuries, perhaps millennia, carving these jars into the landscape. Perhaps the most chilling and tragic reason the Plain of Jars remains such a mystery is its modern history. During the secret war of the 1960s and 70s, the Xiangquang Plateau became the most heavily bombed place on Earth per capita. The United States dropped over 270 million cluster bombs on Laos in an attempt to cut off North Vietnamese supply lines. An estimated 80 million of these deadly submunitions failed to explode on impact. This means that to this day, vast areas around the jar sites remain contaminated with unexploded ordnance, or UXO. It is literally one of the most dangerous archaeological sites on the planet. Only a handful of the 90-plus sites had been cleared safe enough for tourists and archaeologists to visit. The rest are off-limits, guarded by fences and warning signs. The very earth that holds the clues to this ancient mystery is booby-trapped with relics of a modern war. This adds a somber, poignant layer to the enigma. The secrets of the past are literally protected by the deadly consequences of recent history. For those who look for patterns in ancient mysteries, the Plain of Jars invites comparison. While unique, the scale of the operation and the lost technology echo other megalithic sites, like the Moai of Easter Island or the stone spheres of Costa Rica. It represents another data point in a global pattern of ancient cultures achieving seemingly impossible feats of stoneworking. For purposes we can only guess at, was this an independent innovation, or is it evidence of a wider lost thread of human knowledge?
Our next journey takes us to Karya Mukti village in West Java, Indonesia. What if I told you that hidden within a mountain on the island of Java lies a structure so ancient it could shatter our entire understanding of human history? What if the conventional timeline of civilization, starting with Mesopotamia and Egypt, is completely wrong, and an advanced culture capable of monumental architecture existed thousands of years earlier only to be wiped from memory by a cataclysmic event? Here, nestled atop an extinct volcano 885 meters above sea level, lies Gunung Padang, a name that translates poetically to Mountain of Light or Mountain of Enlightenment. To the casual observer, it looks like a series of 5 magnificent terraces, accessed by a daunting staircase of 370 steep stone steps rising at a 45-degree angle. These terraces are paved with massive rectangular blocks of andesite, a volcanic rock that naturally forms into striking geometric columns. The largest of these stones weigh several tons each, and they are arranged with a precision that hints at a purpose far beyond random natural formation. Local Sundanese people have long considered the site sacred. Legend says it was built by the semi-mythical king Siliwangi, who attempted to construct a palace in a single night. Even today, the site radiates a powerful energy. Visitors and locals speak of a special magnetism, and some of the stones even produce musical, gong-like sounds when struck, a feature that earned them the name Batu Kecapi, or stone lutes. But the true mystery isn't what's on the surface, it's what lies buried deep beneath it. For decades, mainstream archaeology classified Gunung Padang as a megalithic site from the first millennium AD, possibly built between 2000 and 1200 years ago. This changed dramatically when Dr. Danny Hilman Natadwijaya, a respected Indonesian geologist, began a comprehensive study using ground-penetrating radar, seismic tomography, and core drilling between 2011 and 2015. What his team discovered sent shockwaves through the scientific community. They proposed that the visible terraces are merely the tip of the iceberg. According to their data, Gunung Padang is not a natural hill, but a complex, multi-layered pyramidal structure built in profound phases across millennia. Here is the revolutionary and controversial chronology they put forward. Unit 1, the top layer. The visible stone terraces dated to about 3,000 to 4,000 years ago. Unit 2, the middle layer. A layer of columnar rocks arranged in a matrix structure 1 to 3 meters below the surface, dated to a staggering 7,500 to 8,000 years ago. Unit 3, the deep layer. The most astounding claim. A layer extending up to 15 meters deep with large underground cavities and chambers, radiocarbon dated between 9,500 and 27,000 years ago. This final date is the bombshell. If true, it means the deepest layers of Gunung Padang were constructed during the last ice age in the Paleolithic era. This was a time when mainstream science insists humans were simple hunter-gatherers using basic tools of bone and wood, incapable of complex social organization or monumental construction. This would make Gunung Padang the oldest known pyramid-like structure in the world, predating the Pyramid of Djoser in Egypt by over 20,000 years and Göbekli Tepe in Turkey by more than 10,000 years. The plot thickened when geophysical scans allegedly revealed large hidden chambers deep within the structure. One particularly compelling scan pointed to a massive chamber roughly 10 meters long, 9 meters wide, and 5 meters high, about the size of a small house located 15 to 30 meters below the surface. The prospect of what might be sealed inside, artifacts, records, or evidence of a lost culture, is the stuff of every archaeologist's dreams and every adventurer's fantasies. However, this is where the story takes a sharp turn into academic warfare. The scientific community erupted in fierce opposition. Mainstream archaeologists and geologists launched a blistering critique of Natawigada's methods and conclusions. So where does this leave us? The mainstream archaeological view, championed by experts like Lutfi Yonder, places the construction of Gunung Padang around 2,000 years ago.
Pottery fragments found at the site date to between 45 BCE and 22 CE, and charcoal samples from beneath terrace walls date to around 117 BCE. This aligns with the known spread of megalithic cultures across Indonesia, where sites called Punden Berundak, stepped temples, were built for ancestor worship. These structures were not built in isolation. They were likely enabled by wealth from trade along the maritime Silk Road, where inland peoples traded precious woods and gold for Indian and Chinese goods. The construction was probably a communal effort, similar to feasts of merit still seen on islands like Sumba today, where families spend their life savings to host massive parties where clans work together to haul multi-ton stones for tombs. Whether it's a 2,000-year-old temple or a 20,000-year-old pyramid, Gunung Padang remains an awe-inspiring monument. It is undeniably the largest megalithic site in Southeast Asia. The debate itself forces us to question the established narrative of human history. It asks us to consider the possibility of lost chapters, of advanced cultures whose footprints were washed away by time, sea level rise, and cataclysm, like the proposed sinking of the Sundaland Shelf at the end of the last ice age. The site is now a battleground of ideas, where geology clashes with archaeology, where national pride meets scientific skepticism, and where our desire to uncover profound truths runs up against the rigorous, slow process of academic validation. As we conclude, we're left with more questions than answers. Is Gunung Padang the smoking gun evidence of a lost advanced civilization, a remnant of a pre-flood world that ancient astronaut theorists and alternative historians have long speculated about? Or is it a fascinating but entirely explainable megalithic site that has been tragically overhyped by flawed science and sensationalism? The mountain holds its secrets close, guarded by layers of soil, stone, and controversy. The only way to know for sure would be to fully excavate it, a monumental and potentially destructive task. Until then, Gunung Padang stands as a powerful symbol of the mysteries that still lie buried, waiting for us to uncover them.
Next, our journey takes us to a desolate, basalt-strewn plateau in the Golan Heights, just 16 kilometers east of the Sea of Galilee. What if I told you that hidden in the contested and rugged terrain of the Golan Heights lies a megalithic mystery so vast you can only see it from the sky? What if this structure, built from thousands of tons of stone, was so ancient that its original purpose was forgotten even by the builders of the pyramids? And what if a shocking new scientific discovery has just completely overturned the most popular theory about what it was used for? From the ground, this area looks like a rocky, uneven landscape, but if we rise above it, as archaeologists first did after the Six-Day War in 1967, an astonishing sight reveals itself. Carved into the very earth is a gigantic set of concentric circles, looking like a massive stone wheel or a target from a divine archer. This is Rujm el-Hiri, a name meaning stone heap of the wildcat in Arabic. In Hebrew, it's known as Gilgal Rephaim, or the Wheel of Ghosts, or the Wheel of Giants. The scale is almost incomprehensible. The outermost wall is 160 meters, or 520 feet in diameter. That's half the length of a modern aircraft carrier. The entire complex is constructed from a mind-boggling 42,000 basalt rocks, weighing a total of 40,000 tons. To put that Herculean effort into perspective, experts estimate it would have required more than 25,000 working days to complete. At its heart sits a central cairn or tumulus, a massive pile of stones 4.6 meters or 15 feet tall and 20 meters or 65 feet wide. The structure is comprised of 4 to 9 concentric circles. The number varies due to collapse and debate, with the walls connected by irregular perpendicular radial walls, creating a labyrinthine effect. There are only 2 entrances, both on the eastern side, with the largest facing northeast. But here's the first crucial question. Why was it built here, and why is it so hard to see from the ground? Was it meant to be appreciated by someone or something looking down from above? For decades, the leading and most captivating theory was that Rujm el-Hiri was a sophisticated astronomical observatory and calendar, often dubbed the Stonehenge of the East. This theory, proposed by researchers like Anthony Avey and Yonatan Mizrachi, suggested the structure's alignments were meticulously planned. It was believed that on the summer solstice, the longest day of the year, the first rays of the sun would shine perfectly through the northeastern entrance, illuminating the central chamber. Other notches in the walls were thought to align with the equinoxes and certain constellations, potentially helping an ancient agricultural society know precisely when to plant and harvest crops. This theory was so elegant and compelling that it became the mainstream explanation. But now, prepare for a shocking twist. A groundbreaking study published in November 2024 in the journal Remote Sensing has completely dismantled this idea. An international team of researchers from Israel and Azerbaijan used advanced satellite imagery, geomagnetic analysis, and tectonic reconstruction to study the site in unprecedented detail.
Their conclusion is a bombshell. The entire structure has moved. Centuries of tectonic activity in the seismically active Golan Heights have caused the ground to shift, rotating the massive stones counterclockwise and shifting them from their original position by tens of meters. The study's authors state, the geological structure of the el-Hiri's area has been shaped by the tectonic evolution of the region, leading to the rotation of blocks, and therefore the migration of its location and the direction of the main entrance and the radial walls over time. This means any alignment with celestial bodies we see today is purely accidental. The beautiful solstice sunrise we thought shone through the gate? A coincidence. The alignments with constellations? An illusion created by shifting ground. This revelation has forced archaeologists back to square one, reopening the mystery of the site's true purpose.
So, what was it? With the astronomy theory debunked, we're left with several other compelling, and in some cases, chilling possibilities. 1. A vast necropolis for giants and kings. The most prominent alternative theory centers on the central cairn, which excavations in the 1980s and 90s revealed to be a dolmen, a single-chamber tomb. A narrow 6-meter-long corridor leads to a burial chamber built from massive stone slabs, some weighing over 5.5 tons, forming a corbelled dome. However, the tomb was looted in antiquity, leaving only a few artifacts like gold earrings and bronze arrowheads. This has led to speculation that the entire monumental complex was a mausoleum for a mighty early Bronze Age chieftain. This connects directly to the site's Hebrew name, Wheel of Giants, and the biblical legend of King Og of Bashan. Deuteronomy 3:11 describes Og as the last of the Rephaim, a race of giants whose immense iron bed was kept in a nearby city. The local folklore suggests that only giants could have moved such enormous stones, forever linking the site to Og's myth. 2. A site for excarnation. Another macabre theory, proposed by archaeologist Rami Arav, suggests the site was used for excarnation, the practice of exposing dead bodies to the elements to remove the flesh from the bones. The concentric walls could have created a secluded labyrinthine space where bodies were laid out for vultures and other scavengers. This Zoroastrian-like practice would explain the lack of human remains and the site's Wheel of Ghosts moniker, as it would be associated with spirits and the dead. 3. A ritual center for a nomadic people. Some archaeologists believe the circles were built during the early Bronze Age, 3000 to 2700 BCE, as a cultic and ceremonial center. Nomadic tribes in the process of settling might have gathered here annually for rituals, perhaps to placate the gods or celebrate a seasonal festival. The central tomb could have been a later addition, built over 1,000 years after the circles. The remote sensing study from 2024 also revealed additional, previously unknown flower-like clusters of small walls around the main site, suggesting it was repurposed and added to over many centuries by different cultures, further obscuring its original function. The mystery of Rujm el-Hiri stands as a powerful reminder of how much we still have to learn about our ancient past. It is a site of immense scale and profound mystery, whose most popular explanation has just been swept away by modern science. Was it a monumental tomb for a giant king? A grim site for sky burials? A sacred gathering place for forgotten rituals? Or something else entirely that we haven't even considered? The stones remain silent, their original configuration altered by the slow, inexorable movement of the earth itself. The truth is buried not just under rock and soil, but under millennia of tectonic shifts and human legend.
Next, our journey begins in the heart of the Peruvian Andes, at an altitude of over 3,700 meters or 12,000 feet. What if I told you that perched on a hill high above the ancient Inca capital, there lies a fortress
so impossibly constructed that the conquering Spaniards refused to believe humans built it? What if the stones of this structure are so massive, so perfectly interlocked, that you cannot slide a single piece of paper between them even after 500 years of earthquakes? And what if the true story of its construction is not the one in your history books, but points to a far older, far more advanced culture lost to the mists of time? Towering above the city of Cusco, once the glorious capital of the Inca Empire, lies the monumental complex of Sacsayhuamán. Its name, often humorously pronounced by tourists as sexy woman, is more likely derived from the Quechua words Saxa, meaning satisfied or full, and Huamán, meaning hawk, translating to the place of the satisfied falcon. To the Spanish conquistadors who first laid eyes on it in the 16th century, it was nothing short of terrifying. They described it as a fortress of the gods, a title that hints at the sheer scale and engineering prowess that defied their understanding. The site is vast, but its most iconic feature is a series of 3 zigzagging walls that stretch for over 400 meters, built in a tiered formation that resembles the teeth of a colossal jaguar, an important animal in Inca cosmology. But the true shock isn't in the layout, it's in the masonry. These are not simple stacked stones. We are looking at some of the largest and most precisely cut blocks ever used in a construction anywhere on Earth. Let's talk about the numbers, because they are absolutely staggering. The walls are constructed in a zigzag pattern with 21 bastions and 3 distinct tiers. The largest of these limestone and andesite blocks is estimated to weigh a mind-boggling 128 to 200 tons. To put that into perspective, that's the weight of a fully loaded Boeing 757 jetliner. And this isn't just one block. Dozens of stones weigh over 50 tons, and they were hauled from quarries located up to 20 miles away across treacherous mountain terrain. But the weight is only half the mystery. The other half is the precision. Each of these monstrous blocks is a unique, irregular polygon. Their faces are cut with such incomprehensible accuracy that they fit together without a single drop of mortar. The joints are so tight, so seamless, that you cannot force a razor blade, a piece of paper, or even a single human hair into the cracks. This isn't just construction, it's a 3-dimensional stone puzzle of epic proportions. This technique, known as polygonal masonry, creates a structure that is virtually earthquake-proof. During a tremor, the stones, locked together by their own weight and intricate shapes, simply dance. They shift and settle without collapsing, and then settle back into place once the shaking stops. This is why, after centuries of violent Andine earthquakes, these walls still stand perfectly intact, while modern Spanish colonial buildings in Cusco below have crumbled and been rebuilt multiple times. The Spanish chronicler Garcilaso de la Vega, who was born in Cusco shortly after the conquest, wrote that the walls were constructed to such a degree of perfection that it is impossible to believe they were made by human hands. It seems rather as if they had been worked by demons or by some species of geniuses. Mainstream archaeology attributes the construction of Sacsayhuamán to the Inca emperor Pachacuti in the 15th century, claiming it was built over a period of 70 years by a workforce of 20,000 men. They used a system called mita, a form of labor tax, to quarry and transport the stones. The official narrative suggests that workers used stone hammers, bronze tools, and ropes to shape the rocks, and that they transported them using log rollers and earthen ramps. But here's where the story starts to unravel. When you look closely, there are 2 distinct and wildly different construction styles at Sacsayhuamán. The famous Cyclopean walls. These are the massive, perfectly fitted stones that form the foundation. The craftsmanship here is otherworldly. The stones have smooth, complexly curved surfaces, nubs or bosses that seem to serve no structural purpose, and interior angles that are not 90 degrees. Style 2. The crude, small, rubble-filled masonry built on top of the megalithic foundations. This is unmistakably Inca work. It looks haphazard and primitive in comparison, using small, irregular rocks
held together with mud mortar. It's a stark and undeniable contrast. This has led many researchers to a shocking conclusion. The Inca did not build the core of Sacsayhuamán. They found it. They inherited the megalithic foundations from a far older pre-Inca civilization and then built their own structures on top of it. The Inca themselves seem to hint at this. Their origin myths speak of the megalithic city of Tiwanaku in Bolivia, as the place where mankind was created by the god Viracocha. They claimed the megaliths were the work of a race of giants or were built by Viracocha himself in a single night. If the Inca didn't build it with bronze tools and ropes, then who did and how? This is where we venture into the realm of lost ancient technology. 1. The vitrification theory. Some researchers, like author Jan Pieter de Jong, point to strange glass-like vitrification on the surfaces of some stones. They propose that the builders used a now-lost technology to somehow soften the stone, allowing them to mold it like clay or press it into place. This could explain the seamless joints and the curious knobs left on the faces, which may have been handles used to maneuver the softened blocks. 2. Advanced sonic technology. Andean legends speak of a plant whose juice could soften rock, allowing it to be shaped. Other tales suggest that the stones were moved and positioned using sound waves or harmonic vibrations. Could there be a kernel of truth to this? The idea that acoustic levitation or sonic drilling was used, while highly speculative, persists because the alternative, pounding these incredibly hard andesite rocks with stone hammers, seems almost ludicrous for achieving such perfection on such a scale.
3. A pre-flood civilization? The most radical theory places the construction of Sacsayhuamán's core in the distant past, potentially over 12,000 years ago, by a sophisticated culture that existed before a great cataclysm, a global flood or pole shift. Proponents of this theory argue that the site, along with others like Göbekli Tepe and the Giza Plateau, is a surviving remnant of this lost epoch. After the cataclysm, the surviving, less advanced peoples, the Inca's ancestors, later stumbled upon these gargantuan ruins and built their own civilization around them, claiming them as their own. Sacsayhuamán is more than just a fortress. It is a profound archaeological puzzle. It stands as a silent, stoic witness to a depth of history we are only beginning to grasp. The official story of its construction raises more questions than it answers, and the evidence of two distinct construction styles is impossible to ignore. Was it built by the Inca Emperor Pachacuti as a show of imperial power? Or was it the work of a mysterious advanced predecessor culture whose name and techniques have been lost to a great cataclysm? The stones themselves seem to whisper the latter, holding their secrets tight within their seamless, earthquake-proof embrace. We're left to wonder, how many other ancient sites have we misattributed? How much of human history is still buried, waiting for us to look with fresh eyes and question the stories we've been told?
Scattered across a high-altitude Bolivian plateau are the ruins of a structure so precise, so complex, that it looks like a giant divine IKEA kit shattered by some apocalyptic force. What if the stones of this site were cut with a level of geometric perfection that would be challenging to achieve even with modern power tools? And what if a shocking new scientific theory suggests these weren't even carved at all, but poured like concrete, rewriting everything we thought we knew about ancient construction? Our journey takes us to the wind-swept high-altitude plains of the Bolivian Andes, nearly 13,000 feet, 3,850 meters above sea level. The air is thin, the sky is vast, and lying before us are the ruins of a civilization that has baffled experts for centuries. This is Puma Punku, an Aymara name meaning the gateway of the Puma. It is part of the larger Tiwanaku complex, a pre-Columbian archaeological site that was once the heart of a powerful empire. But to call Puma Punku a mere temple complex is a dramatic understatement. From the air, the site appears as a T-shaped terraced earthen platform mound, but on the ground, it looks like a playground for giants hit by a cataclysm. Everywhere you look, massive stone blocks are scattered like a child's toy bricks after a tantrum. These are not simple rough-hewn rocks. We're looking at a jigsaw puzzle of andesite and red sandstone with pieces weighing up to 130 tons, the weight of a fully loaded Boeing 757 jet, that were somehow quarried from mountains miles away and transported to this remote plateau. Let's break down the details, because the devil and the absolute wonder is in these details. First, the scale. The largest stone slab at the site, part of the Plataforma Litica, measures a staggering 7.8 meters long, 5.2 meters wide, and 1.1 meters thick, weighing an estimated 131 tons. Imagine the logistics of moving this behemoth and dozens of others like it across 10 kilometers of rugged terrain from the shores of Lake Titicaca, all without the wheel, without draft animals, and at an altitude that leaves modern visitors gasping for air. But the size is only half the story. The other half is the precision. The stones of Punku are famous for their H-blocks, geometric blocks that resemble giant stone Lego pieces. These blocks are not just roughly shaped, they are identical in form, with perfectly flush surfaces, crisp 90-degree interior angles, and complex cuts that interlock with each other in a sophisticated modular system.
The joints between these blocks are so precise that you cannot slide a razor blade or even a piece of paper between them. This isn't just skilled craftsmanship, it's a level of precision engineering that suggests a profound understanding of descriptive geometry and stone cutting that seems to defy the era of its creation. Then there are the mysterious drill holes. Several stones feature perfectly cylindrical bores that look like they were made with a high-speed, diamond-tipped drill bit. Mainstream archaeology tells us the Tiwanaku people had only stone and copper tools, so how did they achieve such mechanical perfection? Even the method of assembly is a mystery. The builders used a unique metal clamp system to hold stones together. But recent analysis of these clamps revealed a bizarre alloy composition: 95.15% copper, 2.05% arsenic, 1.70% nickel, 0.84% silicon, and 0.26% iron. The presence of nickel is particularly baffling, as there are no known sources of nickel in Bolivia. Furthermore, scans suggest the metal was poured into carved indentations as a liquid, meaning the builders had portable smelters working at this incredible altitude. This is where the mystery deepens into controversy. When was Punku built? Mainstream archaeology, based on radiocarbon dating of organic material from the mound fill, places the initial construction of Punku between 536 and 600 AD. This aligns with the peak of the Tiwanaku Empire, a sophisticated culture that dominated the region from around 500 to 1000 AD. However, this timeline is fiercely contested. The early 20th century researcher Arthur Poznański studied the site for decades and proposed a radically different age. Using a controversial method of archaeoastroastronomy, he argued that the alignments of the structures indicated they were built around 12,000 or 17,000 years ago. Mainstream archaeology has widely rejected Poznański's methods and conclusions, noting his flawed data and connections to now debunked theories of scientific racism. But his theory persists in alternative history circles, fueled by the undeniable fact that the engineering feels impossibly advanced for its time.
Now, prepare for a theory that could rewrite the playbook entirely. What if the stones of Punku weren't quarried and carved, but cast? This is the revolutionary proposal of materials scientist Professor Joseph David Ovitz. His team conducted the first ever electron microscope analysis of stones from Punku and made a stunning discovery. The red sandstone blocks, they argue, contain elements like sodium carbonate not found in the local geology, suggesting an artificial origin. Even more shockingly, the hard andesite H blocks were found to contain organic matter based on carbon. This is a bombshell. Andesite is a volcanic rock formed at extremely high temperatures, which would vaporize any organic material. Its presence suggests the andesite was not carved, but was instead a manufactured geopolymer, a type of ancient concrete. David Ovitz proposes that the builders crushed softer local stone, mixed it with natural binders like clay and plant extracts, which release carboxylic acids, and poured the mixture into molds where it hardened over time. This would explain the impossible precision, the lack of tool marks, and the legendary local stories of a plant that could soften stone. If true, this means the builders of Punku weren't master stonemasons. They were primitive chemical engineers, using their profound knowledge of local geology and chemistry to create artificial stone. This theory dismantles the alien or lost super-civilization narratives by showing how human ingenuity could achieve these wonders. Whether built with geopolymer or granite tools, Punku was clearly the crown jewel of a powerful and sophisticated state. At its peak, the Tiwanaku city was a thriving metropolis of 10,000 to 20,000 people, a major spiritual and political center whose influence stretched across the Andes. The site was likely an unimaginably wondrous ceremonial center, adorned with polished metal plaques, brightly colored ceramics, and fabric ornamentation. It was a place where elaborately dressed priests, elites decked in exotic jewelry, and costumed citizens would gather for rituals and ceremonies. The Tiwanaku economy was based on a complex agro-pastoral system and trade, supported by raised field agriculture that allowed them to thrive at high altitude. Their society was highly stratified, with elites likely redistributing resources to commoners, who specialized in farming, herding, or crafts like pottery and textiles. Like all great civilizations, Tiwanaku's glory eventually faded. The site is believed to have collapsed around 1000 AD. The reasons are still debated, but recent geological studies suggest a major drought in the region could have devastated their agricultural systems and led to a sudden, dramatic decline. What remains is a field of shattered dreams and broken stone. The Spanish conquistadors who first saw it in the 16th century described it as inconceivable, and that word still holds true today. Centuries of looting, stone mining for construction, and natural weathering have left the site in ruins, a chaotic jumble that makes its original form difficult to decipher. So, where does this leave us? The mystery of Punku is a multi-layered puzzle. Was it built 1,500 years ago by the ingenious Tiwanaku culture using advanced yet entirely human engineering and geopolymer chemistry? Or does its mind-bending precision point to a far older, lost chapter in human history? The stones themselves refuse to give up their secrets easily. They stand as a silent, broken testament to a level of achievement that seems to oscillate between the impossibly advanced and the ingeniously simple. Perhaps the true lesson of Punku is that we have consistently underestimated the brilliance of ancient civilizations. They didn't need aliens, they had the power of observation, generations of trial and error, and a deep, intimate connection with the materials their world provided them with.
On the most remote inhabited island on Earth, an isolated culture achieved a megalithic feat so astonishing it rivals the pyramids. What if these massive stone giants, numbering nearly 1,000, were not just silent sentinels, but were once believed to literally walk across the landscape? And what if everything you think you know about why this civilization collapsed is wrong? Our story begins over 2,000 miles off the coast of Chile and 1,200 miles from the nearest inhabited island. In a place so isolated, it's often called the navel of the world. This is Rapa Nui,
better known as Easter Island, a name given by Dutch explorer Jacob Roggeving when he became the first European to lay eyes on it on Easter Sunday in 1722. What he and his crew saw from their ship was so astonishing they could scarcely believe their eyes. Dotting the coastline were hundreds of gigantic stone figures, their backs to the sea, staring inland with a silent, imposing authority. Roggeveen himself wrote in his ship's log that the islanders prayed to these idols, which stood erected all along the seashore in great numbers, before which they would fall down and invoke them. These are the moai, the colossal stone heads that are actually full-body statues, many of which are buried up to their shoulders. To this day, 887 complete moai have been catalogued across the island. They are not all the same. They range from a tiny 3.76 feet to an absolutely colossal, unfinished giant named El Gigante, which still lies in the quarry, measuring 71.93 feet long and weighing an estimated 145 to 165 tons. The average moai, however, stands 13 feet tall and weighs a staggering 12.5 to 14 tons. But the sheer number and size of these statues is only the beginning of the mystery. The real questions are, how were they made? How were they moved? And most importantly, why did a society pour so much of its energy into creating them until the very moment it seemingly collapsed?
To understand the moai, we must visit the source, the volcanic crater of Rano-Raraku. This is not just a quarry, it's a frozen moment in time, a factory that was suddenly switched off. Approximately 95% of all moai were carved from the compressed volcanic ash or tuff found here. Walking its slopes is an eerie experience. 397 moai remain here in various states of completion. Some are barely outlined in the bedrock. Others are almost fully excavated, ready to be freed. Many stand buried up to their necks, giving rise to the popular misconception that they are merely heads. But excavations have revealed their intricate, full-bodied forms, often covered in detailed petroglyphs that were protected from erosion by the soil. The carving was a sacred, secretive process undertaken by master craftsmen. Using only stone hand chisels called toki, the finest of which were made from a hard rock called hawaiite. They would outline the figure and then painstakingly chip away until the statue emerged. The process was incredibly ritualistic, designed to not offend the spirits during construction. But here's where the mystery deepens. A groundbreaking 2019 study published in the Journal of Archaeological Science revealed that Rano-Raraku was far more than just a quarry. Soil analysis showed it was also a surprisingly fertile agricultural hub, rich in calcium and phosphorus. The act of quarrying itself crushed the bedrock into nutrient-rich clay, creating a perfect feedback system of water and natural fertilizer. This led the study's authors, archaeologists Joanne Van Tilburg and Sarah Sherwood, to a radical new conclusion. Many of the moai left standing in the quarry were never meant to be moved. They were retained in place to ensure the sacred nature of the site and to stimulate agricultural food production through their spiritual presence, or mana. This is perhaps the greatest engineering puzzle of all. How did a Stone Age society, without wheels, metal, or draft animals, transport hundreds of multi-ton statues across miles of rugged, hilly terrain?
For decades, the dominant theory was rolling on logs. This theory suggested that the islanders deforested their entire island to create pathways of trees to roll the statues on. This narrative perfectly fed into a popular ecological parable that the Rapa Nui people committed ecocide, recklessly destroying their environment for their statue-building obsession, which led to their eventual societal collapse. But hold on, what if that entire story is wrong? In recent years, a compelling alternative theory has gained massive traction, supported by oral legend, experimental archaeology, and the physical evidence on the ground. The theory? The statues walked. That's right. Local legend states that the moai walked to their Ahu platforms. Archaeologists Terry Hunt and Carl Lipo took this literally. They theorized that by using a system of ropes and a coordinated rocking motion, small teams could walk the moai upright in a side-to-side motion, much as you would move a refrigerator. To test this, they conducted a now famous experiment. With a team of just 18 people and 3 sturdy ropes, they successfully walked a 10-foot-tall, 5-ton concrete replica of a moai across a landscape. The demonstration was a stunning success and was captured in a viral video. This method requires no wood at all, completely dismantling the ecocide narrative. Furthermore, the evidence on the ground supports this. The roads leading from Rano Raraku are not flat and smooth for rolling. They are V-shaped and often convex, which would have been ideal for maneuvering an upright walking statue, but incredibly difficult for a statue on rollers. Dozens of moai found fallen along these paths are positioned in a way that suggests they were upright when they fell, not on their backs. So why go to all this trouble? What was the purpose of these monumental endeavors? The moai were not mere monuments. They were aringa ora, living faces.
They were sacred vessels, built to honor deified ancestors, powerful chiefs, or other high-ranking males. The Rapa Nui people believed that after death, a chief's spirit could be captured and contained within a moai. By placing these statues on Ahu, ceremonial stone platforms that ringed the coast, the spirits of these powerful ancestors could continue to watch over their clan's territory and bring prosperity and fertility to the land and the people. This is why almost all moai have their backs to the sea, their gaze turned inward, watching over their descendants. The only exception is the 7 moai of Ahu Akivi, which face the ocean, possibly to help travelers find the island or to mark the spot where 7 legendary explorers awaited their king. The final touch of deification was the eyes. The hollow eye sockets were designed to hold inlaid eyes made of white coral with pupils of red scoria or obsidian. To place these eyes was to awaken the statue, to instill it with its sacred spirit or mana. A moai without eyes was blind and dormant. A moai with eyes was a living, watching god. When Raghuvan arrived in 1722, he reported seeing the statues standing upright. By the late 19th century, every single moai on its Ahu had been toppled. What happened? The traditional story is one of self-destruction. The people chopped down all their trees to move statues, which led to war, famine, and cannibalism, and they toppled each other's moai in violent conflict. But the truth, as uncovered by modern archaeology, is far more tragic and less romantic. The real culprits were rats and Europeans. The Polynesian rat, which arrived with the first settlers, reproduced rapidly and devoured palm nuts, preventing the forests from regenerating. This gradual deforestation changed the ecosystem, but did not cause a sudden collapse. The true collapse began with European contact. Slave raids in the 1860s devastated the population, taking thousands of people, including the island's elders and wise men. Introduced diseases like smallpox decimated those who remained. By 1877, the population had plummeted to a heartbreaking 111 people from an estimated pre-contact high of 3,000 to 4,000.
It was this cultural and demographic catastrophe that broke the chain of knowledge and tradition. The sacred mana was lost. The moai, no longer understood or maintained, were likely neglected or intentionally toppled during this period of immense social upheaval, their eyes shattered to release the spirits within. Today, the moai face new dangers. In 2022, a devastating fire swept through the Rano Raraku quarry, causing irreparable damage to hundreds of moai.
charring their ancient surfaces. Furthermore, climate change and coastal erosion threaten the Ahu platforms that line the shore. Yet, the Rapa Nui people endure. Their population has rebounded to over 7,000, and there is a powerful movement to reconnect with their heritage, to protect the Moai, and even to repatriate those stolen and taken to museums abroad, like the famous Hoa Hakananaya in the British Museum. The story of the Easter Island Moai is not a cautionary tale of a foolish people who loved statues more than they loved their own survival. It is a story of incredible ingenuity, of a people who found a way to walk giants across their island. It is a story of spiritual belief, where stone was imbued with life and purpose. And ultimately, it is a story of resilience. The Moai are not symbols of collapse. They are symbols of a culture's brilliant, monumental achievement, one that was tragically interrupted by forces from the outside world. They stand and lie as a permanent testament to human creativity, faith, and the unbreakable connection between a people and their land.
Coiled within the rolling hills of Ohio lies a quarter-mile-long earthwork so ancient that its true builders remain one of archaeology's greatest enigmas. What if this massive serpent, sculpted from the very earth, wasn't just a religious symbol, but a sophisticated astronomical calendar precisely aligned with the cosmos? And what if a shocking new theory suggests it was built on the site of a cataclysmic meteor strike, harnessing the very energy of the Earth itself? Our journey takes us to a remote plateau in Peebles, Ohio, overlooking the serene Brush Creek. Here, across a high bluff, an unimaginable figure is etched into the landscape. A 1,348-foot-long or 411-meter-long serpent, the largest effigy mound in the entire world. From the ground, its scale is almost impossible to comprehend, but from the air, its form is breathtakingly clear. The serpent's body winds in 7 graceful undulating coils before culminating in a magnificent triple-coiled tail. At its head, the creature's gaping jaws seem to engulf a massive 120-foot-long oval mound, often interpreted as an egg, a frog, or perhaps the sun. Constructed from a mix of yellowish clay, ash, and soil reinforced by rocks, the mound ranges from just 1 to 3 feet in height and between 20 to 25 feet in width. But its power isn't in its height, it's in its profound, sinuous presence. This isn't just a pile of dirt, it's a geoglyph, a drawing on a monumental scale meant to be seen and understood from a perspective higher than any human could achieve without modern technology. The question is, who was it meant to impress? The central heated mystery of Serpent Mound isn't just its purpose, but its very age. Who built it? This question has sparked a century-long archaeological war, and the answer completely changes our understanding of North American history. For decades, the leading theory attributed the mound to the Adena culture, a prehistoric Native American people who inhabited the Ohio Valley from roughly 800 BCE to 100 CE. This theory was based largely on the presence of 2 nearby Adena burial mounds. The Adena were master mound builders, known for their conical burial structures. But then, a bombshell. In the 1990s, a new team collected charcoal samples from the mound and used radiocarbon dating. The results were staggering. The dates pointed to around 1070 CE, suggesting the builder was not the Adena, but the Fort Ancient culture, a later society that thrived from 1000 to 1650 CE. This made sense to some, as the Fort Ancient people frequently depicted serpents in their art and built other effigy mounds like the Alligator Mound in Ohio. Just when a consensus was forming, the plot twisted again. In 2014, another study published in the Journal of Archaeological Science presented new radiocarbon evidence pushing the date back to the Adena period, around 300 BCE.
The authors of this study proposed a compelling compromise. The Adena built it, and the Fort Ancient culture later refurbished or repaired it around 1100 CE. The debate is fierce and ongoing. Mainstream archaeology remains divided. Critics of the older date point out that the 2014 samples were organic sediment from soil cores, which can be notoriously unreliable and yield dates thousands of years older than the actual structure. Furthermore, the Adena are not known for building effigy mounds or using serpent symbolism, while the Fort Ancient culture is. This isn't just academic squabbling. The difference between 300 BCE and 1070 CE is over 1,300 years. It's the difference between a structure built by an early mound building culture and one built by a later, more complex society, potentially influenced by the massive Mississippian civilization to the south. The true answer would rewrite chapters of Native American history. Beyond the question of its builders lies an even more profound mystery. What was its purpose? The evidence points to something far more complex than a simple religious symbol. Serpent Mound appears to be a gigantic, sophisticated astronomical observatory. The entire effigy is precisely aligned to celestial events. The serpent's head is aligned to the summer solstice sunset, while its tail points to the winter solstice sunrise. This means on the longest day of the year, the setting sun appears to set directly behind the head, and on the shortest day, the sun rises in alignment with the tail. But the precision goes even deeper. The 7 coils of the serpent's body have been proposed to align with the equinoxes and other lunar events. Some researchers have suggested the oval object at the mouth could represent the sun, and the serpent swallowing it could depict a solar eclipse. Another theory posits that the serpent's form mirrors the constellation Draco in the northern sky, with the pole star matching the first curve in its body, potentially making the mound a true north compass. This astronomical sophistication is not unique, but its scale is.
It places Serpent Mound in a global tradition of ancient sites like Stonehenge and the pyramids of Giza, all designed to track the cycles of the heavens. For its builders, it was likely the ultimate calendar, marking the times for planting, harvest, and sacred ceremonies, weaving their spiritual beliefs directly into the fabric of the cosmos. Now, prepare for the most mind-bending layer of this mystery. Serpent Mound wasn't built on a random hill. It was constructed directly on the edge of the Serpent Mound disturbance, a 5-mile diameter area of highly disturbed and folded bedrock. Geologists from the Ohio Department of Natural Resources believe this area is a deeply eroded crater caused by a meteorite impact a staggering 250 to 300 million years ago. It is the single most complex geologic structure exposed at the surface in Ohio. The ancient builders would have undoubtedly noticed the unique features of this land, the unusual folds in the rock, the strange energy of the place. While they wouldn't have understood its extraterrestrial origin, they likely recognized it as a place of immense power. Building their cosmic serpent directly on the scar of a star itself suggests they were seeking to tap into this primordial energy, connecting their celestial symbol with a literal wound from the cosmos. Unlike most mounds in its time, Serpent Mound contains no artifacts and no human remains. This immediately sets it apart. It was not a burial site. It was something else entirely. The prevailing theory is that it was a sacred ceremonial site, a place for communities to gather for rituals tied to the changing seasons, astronomy, and their spiritual beliefs. The site's preservation is a modern miracle. It was saved from destruction in the late 19th century by Frederick Ward Putnam of Harvard University and later purchased by 3 local women to prevent its destruction. Today, it is a National Historic Landmark and is on the United States tentative list for submission to UNESCO as a World Heritage Site, a status that would place it alongside global wonders like the Taj Mahal and the Great Wall of China. Serpent Mound remains America's greatest prehistoric enigma. It is a testament to the incredible astronomical knowledge, engineering skill, and spiritual depth of ancient Native American cultures. Was it an Adena masterpiece, later adopted by the Fort Ancient people? Or was it solely the work of the Fort Ancient culture, a testament to their complex world? Was it a celestial calendar, a sacred temple, or a monument built on a star scar to harness the Earth's energy? The serpent keeps its secrets, coiled in silence for over 1,000 years. It stands as a powerful reminder that long before European contact, the North American continent was home to sophisticated societies capable of breathtaking achievements that we are only just beginning to understand.
What if the countless flood myths found in cultures across our planet aren't myths at all, but a fragmented, traumatic memory of a real global cataclysm? What if the mysterious megalithic structures we've explored, from the impossible walls of Sacsayhuamán to the cosmic alignments of Serpent Mound, are not just ancient mysteries, but the surviving rubble of a pre-flood world? A world built by an advanced civilization whose name and history were almost completely erased from existence. Let's start with a fact so staggering it demands a complete re-evaluation of history. The story of a great civilization-ending flood is not unique to the Bible. It is the single most widespread narrative in human mythology. In Mesopotamia, the Epic of Gilgamesh tells of Utnapishtim, who built a great boat to survive a divine deluge sent by the god Enlil. In ancient Greece, Plato wrote of the sunken continent of Atlantis, destroyed by earthquakes and floods in a single day and night of misfortune. In Hindu scriptures, the god Vishnu takes the form of a fish to warn the sage Manu of a coming flood, instructing him to build a massive ark. The Maya have their Popol Vuh, which tells of a great flood unleashed by the gods to destroy the first failed race of humans. Even among the indigenous tribes of the Americas, from the Hopi to the Choctaw, stories persist of a time when the waters rose and only a few survivors remained. Over 500 distinct flood legends have been documented across every corner of the globe. This isn't a coincidence. This is a collective memory. The details change, the names of the gods, the size of the boat, the hero, but the core event remains terrifyingly consistent. An immense, catastrophic inundation of water that wiped the slate of humanity almost clean. For centuries, these stories were dismissed as allegory. But in the last few decades, a growing body of geological evidence has emerged that suggests these myths are rooted in a terrifying reality. The leading scientific theory points to the end of the last glacial period, around 12,800 to 11,600 years ago. As the world warmed, the massive ice sheets that covered North America and Europe began to melt catastrophically. This wasn't a gentle process. Meltwater Pulse 1b, around 11,500 years ago, saw global sea levels rise by an estimated 14 meters or 46 feet in under 400 years. Imagine the coastline you live on retreating by miles, not over millennia, but within a few generations. Entire continental shelves were submerged. The Black Sea was once a freshwater lake. Then, around 7,600 years ago, a natural dam at the Bosporus burst and saltwater from the Mediterranean catastrophically flooded it, inundating an area the size of Ireland and turning it into a sea overnight. An event that may be the direct origin of the Noah and Gilgamesh flood myths. But there's an even more catastrophic theory. The Younger Dryas impact hypothesis proposes that around 12,800 years ago, a fragmented comet or asteroid struck the Earth's ice sheets. The impact would have instantly vaporized trillions of tons of ice, triggering a global flood.
plunging the planet back into a mini ice age for over 1,000 years and causing the immediate extinction of megafauna like woolly mammoths and saber-toothed tigers. Evidence for this includes a mysterious black matte layer of sediment found at archaeological sites across North America, filled with nanodiamonds, magnetic microspherules, and other materials that only form under extreme temperatures and pressures. Whether by meltwater or impact, the geologic record is clear. The world experienced a series of devastating, rapid-onset floods at the end of the last ice age. This is the potential scientific bedrock of the global flood myth. The theory, often called the Younger Dryas Impact Hypothesis or the Lost Civilization Hypothesis, posits that a sophisticated seafaring culture existed during the last ice age. This culture, potentially based on now subcontinental shelves like Sundaland or Doggerland, possessed advanced knowledge of astronomy, agriculture, and megalithic construction. When the cataclysm struck, whether comet impact or rapid meltwater pulses, their coastal cities were obliterated, sunk beneath the waves. The survivors, scattered across the globe in small groups, would have become the gods and culture heroes of emerging post-flood societies.
They would have imparted their knowledge, which is why we see a sudden, unexplained explosion of agriculture, megalithic construction, and astronomy at sites like Göbekli Tepe and the Giza Plateau shortly after the proposed flood date. They built with massive, durable stone, not for glory, but for survival, to create structures that could withstand the earthquakes and floods they knew were coming. Their legacy is not in written records, which would have been destroyed, but in the impossible stones they left behind and the universal, terrified story of the day the water won. The mainstream archaeological view remains skeptical, demanding more evidence, and they are right to be cautious. But the pieces of the puzzle are there: the universal myth, the geological evidence for catastrophe, and the existence of mysteriously ancient advanced structures that defy conventional timelines. The Great Flood may be more than a story. It may be the key to understanding the single most important event in human history, an event that reset our civilization and forced us to start over, forever haunted by the memory of what was lost. The truth of our past may not be buried in the sands of Egypt, but hidden beneath the waves of our oceans, waiting for us to dive deeper and uncover the secrets of a world before our own.